Welcome to the Politics News Wolf US channel. The war between Ukraine and Russia is heating up. We have repeatedly witnessed the Russian army's many collections of mistakes and failures, and the Russian commander's acknowledgement of it, as well as the destruction of Russia's deathbed troops. In the ongoing war in Ukraine, every unit of Russian army equipment was destroyed or exploded. The lack of Russian tanks appeared. The Russian army shot down its troops with its own long-range missile. We have seen many times that the S-300 and S-400 air defense systems, Russia's most trusted air defense systems, are helpless against Ukraine. But the biggest destruction was undoubtedly the Russian Navy. The Black Sea fiascos of Russia, which we talked about in the last video, was actually the biggest disgrace that the Russian Navy has experienced for many years. In fact, the Russian Navy was showing its strength as a great power before starting the Ukrainian of. It conducted serious operations in the Mediterranean, Baltic Sea, Black Sea, and Arctic. The Russian Navy with its magnificent appearance brought its cruisers to NATO exercises, but the hell of the Russian Navy, which entered the Ukrainian war, has also begun. First, Russia's Black Sea Fleet flagship. Moscow was hit by Ukraine's Neptune anti-ship missile styles. Afterwards, many Russian cruisers were targeted and damaged by Ukrainian anti-ship missiles or by Rocker TB-2 fighter drones or underwater kamikaze. It has been reported that Admiral Makarov was also seriously damaged in the attacks carried out in the Sevastopol port in recent days while the Russian Navy was melting. More bad news for Russia came from the Admiral Kuznetsov aircraft carrier. The news that a fire broke out on the ship, which is Russia's only aircraft carrier and which is given great fell on the press services today. A fire broke out on the Russian aircraft-carrying cruiser Admiral Kuznetsov. On Thursday, December 22, the Russian anti-aircraft carrying cruiser, Admiral Kuznetsov, caught fire while docking at the Zvezdoka shipyard in Morozh, Russia. According to Russian news agencies, one person was killed and about a dozen others were injured in the entire crew of the ship was evacuated by the fire. We'll get into the details. However, according to media reports, there are allegations that this was a sabotage attempt by Russian partisan. It is currently unknown how much damage the Admiral Kuznetsov aircraft carrier, which has been carrying the burden of the Russian Navy for a long time and showed that it is still usable by going to Syria to support Bashar Assad in 2016, will be damaged by this fire. However, we can clearly say that this fire dealt a very serious blow to the Russian Navy. The presence of an aircraft carrier in international seas today stands out as a unique option for the Navy of every. However, with this loss of the Russian Navy, it's thought that it will not be very possible to take a stance against the US and UK navies. At this point, let's examine the details of the fire and then explore the importance of Admiral Kuznetsov for the Russian Navy. A fire on Russia's only aircraft carrier forced all crews to evacuate, a further blow to refurbishment plans. The unfortunate Admiral Kuznetsov docked at this shipyard in Moscow for repairs. After the troubled ship caught fire, a fire broke out in the port side cabins of the flagship of the Russian Navy, which also caught fire. In 2019, Alexei Rachmanov, head of renovations at the United Shipbuilding Company, said that the fire broke out during. As we just said, these statements should be taken into account, but any possibility of sabotage should always be kept alive. This is the latest to occur this week after two mysterious explosions and massive fires in the Irkutsk region. For this reason, we recommend that you look at the official statements from this perspective. Armageddon-like flame shot into the sky, from the giant flame in the -22°C, cold at the Markov condensate treatment. The dramatic footage shows the scene from hell caused by jet fire in the eastern Siberian region of US Irkutsk region. At least 7 people were injured in the explosion in Angar, in the same area as the explosion that occurred 3 days ago and has been compared in strength to an earthquake or a plane crash. Separately, a massive explosion hit a major Russian gas pipeline, some 900 kilometers from the Ukrainian. The reason was unclear, but the video showed a large ball of fire burning in the Cayenne Republic. Admiral Kuznetsov is expected to re-enter service in 2024 after major repairs. However, it is possible that this date will be delayed further after this fire. At the same time, we can think that the Russian industry, which has a serious shortage of spare parts after the embargoes on Russia, may delay the repair of the ship. In fact, setbacks often lie in the fate of the Admiral Kdov aircraft carrier. The ship has been plagued with malfunctions and setbacks since it was launched in 1985. In December 2019, a fire broke out on the ship that killed 2 people and injured 11. The ship was seriously damaged. The flames that broke out during welding work quickly spread to the inner compartments of the carrier. This fire sank a massive floating dock that held the ship after a 70-ton crane crashed onto Admiral Kuznetsov's deck in October 2018. The crane left a 215-square-foot hole, and the loss of the pier significantly slowed repairs on board, as no other ship of comparable size was in the Navy. Today's fire will further delay the work of equipping the ship with modern control systems and new weapons. Repairs were expected to be completed by the end of 2020, with a warship rejoining the Navy in 2021 with its black smoke turbines looks outdated compared to the U.S. nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, but the Kremlin used this to project military power away from the Russian coast. The warship entered service in 1990 and joined naval convoys passing through the British coast with the length of 3 football fields, a maximum speed of 29 knots, and a crew of 2,000. The ship had a majestic appearance and a menacing stance. Admiral Kuznetsov can carry 28 aircraft and 17 helicopters. It is also armed with the aircraft carrier P-700 Granite missile. The modernized aircraft carrier will be equipped with a naval version of the Pioneer air defense system, as well as new boilers, pumps, and flight and communication systems. 5 years ago, Admiral Kuznetsov was deployed to the eastern Mediterranean as part of Russia's campaign in Syria, launching the first aircraft carrier-mounted strikes in the history of the Russian Navy. Syria lost 2 carrier-borne fighters in the events that occurred during this. In November 2016, a fighter participating in these operations crashed while trying to land on the aircraft carrier. A month later, a second fighter plane crashed while attempting to land. Both accidents were attributed to faulty arresting equipment on Admiral Kuznetsov. Admiral Kuznetsov had to withdraw from the Mediterranean the following month. Since this deployment, the aircraft carrier has been at the shipyard in Murmansk, a northern port city in the Barents Sea. In fact, in 2019, very serious data emerged that the ship could be scrapped. Examining this data will show us much better what the ship has to offer. The Russian Navy at the moment, according to a source from the Russian Navy, Admiral Ob, Russia's only aircraft carrier, stated that the aircraft carrier may be decommissioned if the Ministry of Defense and Industry cannot solve the problem of replacing the repair dock needed for repairs in the whole of. In the incident in 2018, the repair dock sank after a power outage during repair work for Admiral Kuznetsov. And as a result of one of the cranes on the quay crashing into the ship's deck, a 4.5-meter hole was formed on the flight deck of the Admiral Kuznetsov warship. The large warship of the Russian Navy stood next to the 35th repair factory in Kola Bay near, awaiting the decision on its fate. Even before the repair dock accident, some observers questioned the necessity and cost of replacing Admiral Kdov. Oleg Vatican said, in general, we need to critically reconsider the internal concept of employment of carrier strike groups since Admiral Kdov of Russia undertook to perform these tasks. Since Kuznetsov was not a combat platform like a training platform, deep modernization for it seemed blatantly unnecessary. But Putin pressed for the only aircraft carrier of the Russian Navy to return to the. After Admiral K's appointment in 1990, it was inherited by Russia after the collapse of the USSR. The original name of the ship was Riga. It was commissioned as Laren Nev, began sea trials as Telesi, and was eventually renamed Admiral Flotas. Sokogo Sozikdov after Admiral of the Fleet of the Soviet Union, Nikolai Gar-Simonovich Kuznetsov in the post-Cold War years. It was rarely put to. It was only on 6 patrols between 1991 and 2015. In 2009, a crew died as a result of an electrical accident off the coast of Turkey. Despite many adversities, Russia repeatedly kept Admiral Kdov in office. After the accident in 2019, hope was lost for the ship and it was thought that it could not be repaired again. Many Russian war analysts have expressed the opinion that this would be an unnecessary. However, as we just said, Vladimir Putin showed an emotional stubbornness for the ship to go back to the waters. It is obvious that the landing time of the ship, which has received a new blow with the latest fire, will be delayed much longer. However, Vladimir Putin wants the ship to return to the seas no matter what. In fact, according to some intelligence reports from the Kremlin, it is even stated that Admiral Kuznetsov was wanted by Putin to be used in the naval siege of. But the Russian leader had to abandon this idea because it was impossible. However, the Russian Navy is losing more and more blood every day, and at the end of the war, they may struggle with great incompetence just like the Russian ground forces. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel to update you with daily information.